Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Getting Personal with Parkinson's, our Facebook Live weekly conversation series. I'm Caroline Colas, the Senior Director of Health and Wellness at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan, and I'm also the Program Coordinator for the Edmund J. Safra Parkinson's Wellness Program here at the J. Our program is supported by New York's largest healthcare provider. We're so grateful, and that provider is Northwell Health. We've been hosting programs for people living with PD for over 12 years now. And to find out more and participate in our programs, all you need to do is fill out an intake form. So head on over to our website at www.mmjccm.org/Parkinson's. You can see below, there's a link that Matt's going to put in there in the comments section for you. Take a moment, please, and share this Facebook Live with others so that others can hear about our program and also get their questions answered. This conversation is to help put a face to Parkinson's, to introduce you to people living and thriving with PD, as well as experts and teachers and instructors who will share their research and techniques to help those impacted by PD. And today, I want to introduce you to Uta Takemura. She is joining our faculty this summer. In fact, her first class starts this afternoon to bring her dance program, Dance for Mobility, Creativity, and Fun for PD. Uta has danced professionally, nationally, and internationally with numerous dance companies, including the Mark Morris Dance Group. She holds a BFA in dance from SUNY Purchase and a master's degree from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. Uta has had the pleasure of teaching in the Dance for PD program with Mark Morris for over 10 years now. Uta and I sat and had a little conversation that we pre-recorded, which I'm going to share with you now. And then I'm going to come back on and I'll answer any of your questions live. So please feel free to put any questions below in the comment section, and I'll be back to answer them after the show. Uta, thank you for joining me today, and thank you for joining the JCC team.
Thank you, Caroline, for a warm welcome, and I'm very excited to do this. And I know that the JCC already has a pretty robust programming for people living with Parkinson's, and I'm very excited to join you all.
Oh yeah, it's been great fun, and I know that Pamela Quinn, who you're subbing for this summer, is taking a sabbatical. Pamela was on our show, and she teaches a dance class, PD lab, and is just a force in the PD world. I wonder about you and your passion and your career for dancing. How old were you when you began dancing?
I actually started fairly late, and compared to many of the dancers who I know. I was about 12, and I was not very convinced to start dancing. My mother had always wanted my sister and I to start dancing, and she herself took some classes, and she brought us along to see if we would get interested, but no, we did not. So for many years she tried, and one day when I was about 12, I don't know what happened, but I said, maybe I'll try dancing. And my mother was overjoyed. She took me to neighborhood dance classes, ballet class. This was in Japan. Dance training in Japan is pretty rigid. So when I started, it was a lot of technique, a lot of square training, and as a kid, you don't enjoy that so much. But our joke in our house is that I was actually a professional dancer at that point, because at some point I was like, I don't really want to go to class, and my mother had to pay me a stipend, maybe like $1 or something, but every time I went, I got the money. So that was my motivation.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And what styles of movement actually sort of grabbed you? I mean, you kept going, clearly. Maybe your allowance increased or not, or your stipend. I love that. You might be the youngest, one of the youngest paid professional dancers I've ever interviewed.
So what changed was when I was in high school, then my family moved to Taiwan, where I met this wonderful ballet teacher. She was Dutch, and she was teaching at the American high school there. And she had a different approach for teaching, and most importantly, she loved to perform. So as soon as I got into the program, she said, "Oh, we're going to do the show. Oh, we have a class, we have rehearsal, we have everything." So I basically got hooked for performing because then there was a purpose.
That's wonderful. And it's great to get hooked. And our teachers really do make a difference. I know for me, when I first started taking classes other than dance classes, I thought, well, where's the performance at the end, right? It was very strange, but the sense of community and the sense of getting to know others in the room. And I agree with you. Those folks that guided me when I was, younger were very influential. I think of Betty Jones I studied with in Hawaii, and various famous modern dancers. What about Mark Morris? So, how did you get involved?
That was an accident, as a matter of fact. I was in college. At that point, I was at SUNY Purchase, and I took a train into the city to see something. I didn't know what, so I went to one of those TKT, what is it called?
Yeah, TKTS booth.
Yes, right. I haven't been there in a little while. Booth. And randomly looked at what's playing tonight, and there was a show at BAM, Brooklyn Academy of Music. Said, okay, I'll do that. Got there, sat down with my notebook on my lap, ready to take notes, and the show started, the curtain went up. I probably took notes for about 15 minutes or maybe even less, and I just kind of went, okay, never mind, I'm just going to watch the show. And it was a 2-hour-long evening-length piece called L'Allegro Il Penseroso e Il Moderato. It just blew my mind away. So after the 2 hours, I stood up, I clapped, I cried. All the emotions just came over me, and I said, one day I'm going to dance for him, and I'll do that dance. And many years later, it did come true. So it was a full circle in my career.
I love those kind of stories and those moments where we have these insights like, I'm going to do that, and I've had those as well. And equally, I have been in the audience at the Mark Morris Dance Company and been moved by the musicality, by the sensuousness of the movement and the fluidity, and just the surprise. There's humor there. There's what I call that spontaneity, where you're not sure what's going to happen, but then when it does, you go, but of course, that makes sense. And he has, I think, an extraordinary gift in that way. So then, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Mark Morris Dance Company and Dance for PD? Because some people might not know that the whole Dance for PD program is quite extensive. It's all over the world, and it really has, it's been a gift for people living with Parkinson's.
We're celebrating the 20th anniversary, I believe, this fall. So the story is that I wasn't there. Actually, I was in the building, but I didn't know. This lady named Oli Westheimer, she had approached the company and said, hey, my husband is a neurologist, doctor, and since dancers are expert in movement and how to use your body, so why don't you start a program for people with Parkinson's? It started with a very small group of people and a couple of dancers, and they just went at it every week, I believe, and they kept pushing, they kept discovering, studying about how it worked, and they discovered that it was helpful to people with Parkinson's in so many ways. We have live music that we always have in our classes, and I think that's the belief that comes from Mark Morris. He thinks that the live music feeds the souls and dancing bodies. Music informs what body does in so many levels, the quality, the integrity, articulation, something that inspires them physically. So then the program kept going, and it got bigger and bigger. People come in from all over the world, and now with the Zoom, we now have people from all over the world, joining us in our classes. And it's amazing.
It's amazing. And I remember meeting Oli and going to Dance for PD classes. And also I know that Pamela Quinn was right there as well with her PD lab with Oli at the very beginning. So it sounds like something she would say. Exactly. And just amazing, amazing heart and artistry. And it's just so delightful to have you here talking about it. And then also having you expand and do creatively something that you've been thinking about with this new kind of 4-week mini session. So tell us about that a little bit more.
Well, when we started talking about what to do for this particular time, and I had mentioned, well, I've always been wanting to sneak in a little anatomy class, mini anatomy lessons in the class, and then expand within that class. I would start with one thing, and then I try to develop that into something bigger, and then hopefully that the whole class will be based on that one particular part of body that we pick each week. And I was thinking this morning, it's like, what is it like? It's sort of like cooking shows with the secret ingredients that you get. And what this pandemic had taught me is that, you have these very limited amount of ingredients in the pantry and the fridge, and then what kind of dinner can you make out of that?
Right. Ingenuity and creativity. I know that's sort of the problem-solving aspect of being an artist all of the time, right? I remember going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and there was a whole series of paintings on fans, and that was, everyone had to paint on a fan. And what different artists came up with reminds me of what you're talking about. What can you do with parameters or boundaries or a problem to solve? And I just think that it's gonna be a whole lot of fun, which is great.
And what I love about Zoom also, I think in person is one thing, but also Zoom, I get to play with people, what they can do. So this class is not just about me giving you directions, but I think interactive in some ways, so that I will give you ideas and then you get to play with it and the way that you like.
And I love that. I feel like education is power. And when we learn about our body and even have a conversation with it, start a dialogue with our body, then we're not fighting our body, we're working with it. And I think that's one of the things that I know in the NIA technique we talk about all the time. It's like, how can, sure, you have Parkinson's, right? It's come into your field, it's come into your body. How can you dance with it? So what does your body need? How can we start a conversation so that you're in relationship with it and not fighting against it in a way that causes stress?
Yeah.
But fighting, if you have to fight to keep going and to keep motivated and to stay involved, but also to work with the body. And I think dance is so much like that.
Right. And, using the imagery is so important when you approach a movement. I know many methods and people teaching with different methods and technique have the same information. It's all there. And we all know how body is a smart thing, where they know what to do, except that if you don't tell them in the right way, will want to use different kinds of muscles and you'll tense up and do all the funny things. And where if you would say something like, okay, pick up something. Okay, pick up like you're picking up a jewel, or pick up a nice little feather. If you give them different ideas of what the action is, it could trigger that different reaction to your body and how you can direct your body in different ways.
And we were just together in a kind of educational training with Dr. Rebecca Gilbert, and she was talking with all of us about how important it is to move and learn something at the same time. And it strikes me that what you're doing, and that there's research actually that shows that when we do that, the brain is really stimulated. The circulation in the brain is really stimulated. So this is like the perfect low barrier if anybody wants to try Dance for PD, or if anybody wants to try.
There's no right or wrong in this class
Right.
at all. You can
Right.
do anything you want.
You can jump on in there, and it'll be good for your brain and helpful for the Parkinson's too. So for you, what has Parkinson's taught you, working with people living with Parkinson's? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think I've become more flexible and adaptable, because you can, as a teacher especially, you come up with your class plan. I used to do that, like make notes on like second exercise, third exercise, and then you go into class and you're like, no, that's not what they need. Oh well, toss that all that. You can still have that little structure, yes, but you look at what you have in front of you and you go, okay, well, that works. Okay, so I think, that person needs that. Okay, I'm going to add that. Okay, but then, maybe they're looking a little tight here. Okay, I just need to expand a little bit more. Okay, now they're a little too flowy. Okay, I'm just going to, so I have become much more observant, I believe. I have better eyes. I've trained my eyes better that way. But also, I'm just go with the flow with whatever presents in front of me. So it's just like cooking again. You start cooking something and you taste something and you go, oh no, that's bad. And then what do you add? Or you may have to scrap that and start all over again. But it's okay. It's a dance class. You can do that. I think I'm motivated by people around me, and I do learn from everybody in the class. And I think that's important, that I become flexible, that I'm not stuck with one thing, but I'm open to many possibilities.
I love it. I agree. And what about COVID and this time of being on Zoom? Are there any silver linings from your experience of this time period on working with people living with Parkinson's?
So I think there were two kinds of people who jumped onto this sort of, technology, it's great, I can do this at home, and log on every time. And then there are people who are not so adapt to the technology. So there are some people I don't see so much anymore, which I worry about. But for the people who can make it to the class on Zoom, it has opened up a whole new world for them, including myself. In the beginning of the pandemic, I didn't know what to do. I lost all my jobs, and then I just latched onto this online classes, and I said, okay, I'm just going to come and take all sorts of people's classes, getting to know people more in their own homes, like what their homes look like. Oh my God, I didn't know that she painted, or she has plants. Yeah. So when you do these improvisation, for example, they're kind of all out there. And I think because they've been inside, and anything that can get them out of their home, out of their frames, they're happy to do. So I think they're more encouraged to do that, and they take it in. And I tend to also use sort of natural imagery in my class, so they love it. They just blossom, especially like when I do flower dances. But for me, though, I've discovered a little garden behind my apartment complex, which I knew existed, but I never took advantage because I was always too busy going somewhere. And so now I take a walk every day and discover plants and flowers that are blooming that wasn't blooming the day before.
Is there a little warm-up? You said this beautiful flower dance. Is there something you can teach us? It just gives us a little
Sure.
There might be some people that can't make it on Mondays at 3:30. Yeah. So I'm just wondering if we could just do a real quick little dance.
So let's just say, we're going to do some hand dance. All right. So when you look at a hand, you always think of a cutout hand shape, like one piece of almost like a doughboy hand. And now just see if you can, or maybe you're waving at somebody. I'm waving at Caroline. I'm like, hello, how are you? Nice, great. And then you're blowing in the wind. So the hand is blowing in the wind. And now maybe we'll count down from 5 to maybe 4 to 3. This is hard. 3 to maybe 2 to maybe 1. Now as a 1, maybe we can do like come, little come motion. Yeah, come. Or I was also thinking earlier today, like you're petting a tiny, tiny little bird that's in front of you. And then you're going to let go of that and let that whole hand float like you're floating in the water. Well, let's just do that. And maybe you're riding on a wave. You could go the other way. And maybe you'll then pick up that tiny piece of feather that was floating in the water. And you're going to blow on it. Well, actually, let's take a look at it. Maybe there's different colors, iridescent. Or what's the weight of that feather? And now, since it's wet, you're going to maybe try to blow it and dry it. Again. Take a deep breath in. So just imagine it's already dry. And let that float. And let that float in the air like you're following the feather floating in the wind. Oh, like I was thinking of the Forrest Gump movie, at the end of the movie when there's a credit and the feather is blowing in the wind. So you can just sort of let that float.
Oh my gosh, this is so much fun.
And it might land on your head. And it might land on your shoulder. And it might land on your eyelid. And then pick that and then blow it away.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That was just a delight. A moment of joy, right?
And like I will mention something like the hand has 27 bones. So if you think of that, like you articulate it differently because there are all these joints that let you move your hand.
It's not just one thing.
One thing, like one block of hand. Yeah.
It's
and in something like that can maybe help them in their daily lives when they have to pick up their pill or pick up a glass of water.
It's like we're designed. The hands are designed to be articulate, right? And to move in many different ways. Oh, I love this. Well, I'm going to have to pop in myself for the class. We talked about that as well. Thank you so much, Uta, and welcome to the Parkinson's Wellness Program faculty at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. We are just delighted to have you as part of our team. We are so excited that you're joining us. Everyone, if you're interested in learning more about Uta's class for creativity, mobility, and fun, you can register for this class on our website by using the link below. It's in our comments section. And remember, this conversation that we're having, these conversations weekly, are all for you. So please let us know what you're interested in learning about or sharing with us. If you have questions about living with Parkinson's or how best to care for someone living with Parkinson's, please let us know that too. You can always reach out to us. You can email Whitney Chapman at wchapman@mmjccm.org. We want to be having the conversations that matter to you. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun to see that again. And I'm so excited to try Uta's class today, it starts today at 3:30, Mondays at 3:30. And if you want to participate in this class or any of our Parkinson's programs, see the link below and you fill out a short intake form. Anyone can do it. It's really simple. And then you can join, right? Next week, everyone, I'm going to be talking with Harry McMurtry. And McMurtry. And he was diagnosed, you don't want to miss it. He was diagnosed with PD in his 40s, and he is thriving. He says there's a lot of living to do, so I hope you'll join us for this really inspiring conversation. Take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye now.